Did you have to fight your case with a public defender?
No, I had a private lawyer at first. I had a lawyer named Richard Giampa. And then what happened was, they said, I never lost a case with Richard Giampa. I had beat every case I ever had with this man. And what happened was, because I had him in the state. I had him for the quadruple homicide, and I had him for the wiretap case. Now, when the feds came, I used Mr. Giampa for the Fed case at first, but then they said that he can't represent me, or they was trying to say he can't represent me because he is what they call house counsel, because he represented a lot of my co-defendants. So they said, well, we want to know where you got the money to pay for this lawyer. So I couldn't use Mr. Giampa for the Fed case, and I was damn sure not going to just go pay them lawyers cost a lot of money. I'm not going to pay a bunch of money for lawyers I don't really know. Because most of the time, they charge you a lot of money and you still lose. So I'm doing calculations here. Man, I'm gonna hold on to whatever I got left, and they won't let me have Giampa. So they end up giving me a lawyer. And they gave me it wasn't a public defender. It was a lawyer from the CJA. And the lawyer from the CJA came on. She was good. Her name was Joyce London. She actually was a good lawyer. And she had a partner named Susan Kelman was the one. And then she had a partner named Joyce London. So I ended up having two lawyers. Good, they was good at what they did. There wasn't no problems, nothing like that. But I wanted to stay with Giampa because Giampa was the one who knew the case better. But right away they said, he's house counsel, we're gonna charge them with using him or whatever. And they made it so that I couldn't use him. And they never even called him as a witness for the case to prove where the money came from. It was just a ploy to keep him from representing me in federal court. And when you can't have the lawyer of your choosing, you're not trying to waste no more money on no lawyers that you ain't know about. Simple as that, you know what I'm saying? And so either way, I always thought in my mind that I couldn't win the Fed case anyway. I just didn't think so because they had the wiretaps. After they took the wiretaps and denied I lost the Franks hearing. The judge ruled that they can use the wiretaps. I knew then that they was going to convict me of the drug case anyway. So it wouldn't have made no sense to have a lawyer just to give him money for no reason when you're going to blow trial anyway. I use my head, you know.
How long did your trial last?
The state trial or federal trial?
The federal trial.
The federal trial lasted, I think, 2 months.
Oh, okay, that's a long time.
Yeah, I think 2 months. I think he was found guilty in June 1993. I think we started April 1993, and I think it ended in June 1993. Yeah.
How long did the jury take to deliberate?
I think it might have been longer than a week, because I was found not guilty of all homicides, right? And I was never convicted of any violent federal offense. I have never been convicted of a violent federal offense. I've never been convicted of murder, homicide, none of that. It took about a week and change. I blew to running a continuing criminal enterprise, which was the super kingpin law, life with no parole, and I blew to racketeering Influence Corrupt Organizations Act.
And you get sentenced to 7 life sentences plus 20 years, which is a crazy sentence for someone who didn't get convicted of anything violent. You know, what was your thoughts and, what was that like?
Well, I remember we got sentenced, and I remember when we blew trial, and it was some of my co-defendants had family in the courtroom when we blew trial, and when they heard that we blew trial, some of them was crying, and some of them they was there when we blew trial and we found guilty. I had to tell them to be quiet, y'all, chill. I didn't want them to show that kind of emotion because I didn't want nobody else to feel it sitting there. I love my co-defendants that stood with me, that went to trial with me, and I always want to put a strong face on. You know what I'm saying? We can always go back to our cell. I used to tell them in the bullpen, we can go back to our cell and show emotion, but when we out there, we ain't gonna show no emotions when they pronounce whether we guilty or not guilty. And so, I always want to put a strong face on. You know what I'm saying? We can always go back to our cell and show emotion, but when we out there, we ain't gonna show no emotions when they pronounce whether we guilty or not guilty. And so, I always want to put a strong face on. You know what I'm saying? We can always go back to our cell and show emotion, but when we out there, we ain't gonna show no emotions when they pronounce whether we guilty or not guilty. And so, but you can't tell people's family really how to show their emotion, you know. But when we got sentenced individually, and I went to court that day, and I made sure that my parents wasn't in court for the sentencing, because I knew it would be life. And, you know, I spoke to the judge at the sentencing, you know, and he wanted me to show more remorse. Like, we wanted me to say what I'm guilty of or whatever, I guess, because he mentioned the fact that I didn't speak about remorse. But he has to understand that they use illegal wiretaps in my case. The state ruled that they were illegal through my co-defendant's case, and the police used them, and they denied every hearing I had. And I felt at the time that it was a little unfair. I'm not saying I wasn't guilty, but the way in which you pursued me was not legal, and you lose illegal ways to get me. It was the ends justifying the means. Sure, I was a drug dealer. Sure, I was guilty, but you didn't get me legally the way you should have gotten me. So I was a little upset about that. And so, you know, I spoke to the judge, but I was respectful, and I did have remorse. It's just not the way in which he wanted me to show it, you know what I'm saying? But I did have remorse, you know what I mean, and whatnot. I felt that, you know, I was wrong for selling drugs. I felt, you know, I was wrong for a few things, but I was focused on watch my appeal. When you got an appeal pending, you have to watch what you say, because what you say could be used against you when you got an appeal. So you got to watch what you say at sentencing. You know what I mean?
I hear that for sure, man. Okay, so at one point after you get arrested, you get charged with a triple homicide, but you beat it?
Yeah, I got charged with a triple homicide in the state. I was in jail, and they claimed that I ordered some Colombians to be killed, right? They had one witness to claim that I did this. They had one witness, dude, I forgot his name. He's so unimportant to me. But this one witness said that I told him to do this thing or whatever, which was not true. And we proved it wasn't true because he said I called at a certain time. At the time he said I called, there was a wiretap, but there's no call. There's no call on this phone showing that I ordered this to be done. So he said I called a certain house in Baisley Projects, apartment 1H, 116-80 Guy Brewer Boulevard, apartment 1H. And they said that I called at that time and told him to do this, but there was no proof because there was a wiretap there and there was no conversation there. So it couldn't have been true. And so that swayed the jury to see, oh, this guy's telling a lie. And so then they used another rat to try to say, I took him around and showed him places where people were. It was just incredible. The jury 12 jurors found me not guilty of that crime. Then I went to federal court, and 12 jurors in federal court found me not guilty as well. You know, and that alone, when the Supreme Team series come out, people will see for themselves the real about that, the truth, and they'll understand what happened. And that's going to be epic, because then you'll finally get to see what happened. You got to be careful with these rats and these informants, you know, because they'll put crimes on you that they do just to get around their cases. And the government don't care. They'll use them to get you locked up as long as they tell them the story the way they want it to be told, you know.
What's up? This is Cam Capone. We got more content like this coming soon, so hit that like button, subscribe, and stay locked in to Cam Capone News.